Whether you're new to 3D printing or maybe you've been doing it for a long time, there should be some tips in this video that will definitely help you out. For example, on the slicer, and in any slicer, you can use modifiers to dramatically change the print. For example, this lamp needs to have a hollow bottom, a solid infill in the middle here, and then a regular infill on the top. Now, if I just print this normally, you'll see that it's completely full of infill all the way down, which wouldn't work very well for a lamp. But if I right click and then add modifier, I can add things like a cylinder, scale the cylinders to make it only affect places that I want it to. And then when I click on them down here, I can change the infill density and a few other things as well if you go along the tabs. So if I change this to 0% infill, and then add a thin cylinder and make this 100% infill, and slice it again, I now have a hollow base for light to pass through very easily with a light puck just underneath the inside. Then I have a layer of 100% infill, which will stop it from passing light further up through the actual rest of the model. And then the rest of the rocket can print just as it's meant to, so it looks like a normal rocket. This way the smoke for the rocket glows as a lamp, and the rest of it just looks like a regular rocket. But you can use modifiers for loads of different things, strengthening certain parts of a print, making certain parts hollow, and all these different things. It's definitely something to know about. Now this is something super useful you can do. In this spray bottle, I have my isopropyl alcohol. Now you'll use this for a lot of things when 3D printing, for cleaning and maintaining your machines, cleaning the carbon fiber rods and other things as well, cleaning down your print beds between prints if you want to do too. And you can also use this to unstick stubborn bits of supports and stuff that have stuck to your print bed. Sometimes you'll print tree supports and those tiny little circles just nightmare to get off. However, if you do run into that, spray some of this on it and they'll be easy to come off. I guess that's a bonus tip. But having it in a spray bottle like this just means that you've always got it around. You can get a nice even coating for whatever you're using it for, and it's just super convenient. You're not pouring it straight out of the bottle. You can get exactly how much you need, and you can get it to coat things like the print bed super easy as well. Now, this tip I got from so many of you guys commenting it, like so many, and it's such a good idea, so thanks. Now, this next tip is something I only recently learned about myself. You can see our Pikachu here with its brown stripes on the back, black ears, red hat, and its yellow body. When you zoom in, you'll actually notice that the stripes are in fact not brown at all. They're actually a mix of black, red, and yellow because the Snapmaker can only print in 4 colors. Something super useful to know about tool changes like the Snapmaker or the H2C is that color mixing finally becomes really useful. Now, your slicer will have a setting called color mixing, which lets you blend in different colors in very fine layers to allow you to basically create another color. If you mix colors really close together, when viewed at a slight distance, the colors look like a different color. So mixing blue and yellow together will give you a green. So if you have 5 colors in your model and blue and yellow are part of the actual colors, you can mix those to make the green, and that way you can still print it in 5 different colors. Now, this is only really worth doing on a tool changer because of the fact that you're not purging filament in between. Doing this on a machine like the P1P would just cause you to have an infinite amount of purge. Not worth it. Since getting the U1 and learning about color mixing, what a feature. Now, this one will save you a lot of time at some point and some frustrations as well. When you're printing something like this, I've got a roll-up box, which by the way is insanely useful. I'll link it in the description. There's these separate parts inside here that just slot into the box to create segments for each little storage area. Now, these are very small prints. However, I wanted to print an extra 4 of them to make sure I can slot them in the extra spaces that you have. Now, when printing something like this, you can actually print them by object instead of layer by layer. And if you didn't know that you could print by object instead of layer, you've learned something new too. Click on the Customize Current Plate, and then your print sequence, you'll click by object. Then what will happen is you'll have all of these different areas, and you can place your models around the print bed so that they don't collide with each other. And then this way it'll print each actual model before moving on to the next one. And the reason that I would choose to do this is if one of the prints comes loose halfway through and you have it on layer by layer, the whole bed's done. But if for some reason there's a failure at any point, especially with thin prints like this, it doesn't really matter because everything that it's done so far will still be absolutely fine. And then you can just cancel that. You've still got all the other prints. So if you are printing multiple small objects on the same plate, then consider doing it object by object. That if it does fail, it's not as big of a deal. Now, another tip that is ridiculously useful, especially if you want to do a large print that doesn't quite fit in one go, is the cut tool. Now, in all slicers, not just Bambu, which I'm using as an example, there is a cut tool. So you'll select the model that you actually want, and then you'll click cut. Now in here, what you can do is you can add connectors and cut your model and it'll do it all for you. So all you'll do is you will rotate this around to whatever way you want. With a shelf like this, you're probably gonna want it directly down the middle. Then you can press add connectors, and in here you can literally just pick whichever one you want to actually add. And you put the depth, size, and the tolerances of those connectors as well. So for example, adding a plug, you would just put them exactly where you'd want them to be. We'll put one in the corner, one in the middle, and then one down here. You could also put one at the top here as well. And then all you'll do is confirm and then perform cut. And then you're left with the two pieces ready to go. You would probably want to make these like little points a bit smaller. That's a bit dramatic. But on the other side here, you can see that there's holes been added for that. And then once this is printed, you can just connect them together and it's done. Now in here, you can also do dovetails too, which may be suited better for something like this shelf. And once you've done this, it'll just separate it off and you can just click it together. And of course, there's the other types of connectors as well. You can get plug, dowel, snap, and thread. So if there's ever a print that's a little bit too big, or there's something that you know could use this, don't worry about overly editing it in like Fusion or something. Just pop it into the slicer. All the slicers do this, and you can just do it there and then. Usual quick interruption, if you haven't already clicked the subscribe button, so many of you guys that are watching all the videos haven't, it really helps the channel grow and I appreciate it a ton. The growth of the channel has been nuts. It really does surprise me still, but I appreciate it. Back to the video. Now this next tip should save you money in the long run because last night I made a mistake and I'm gonna talk about it. These are molds that I printed for soft plastic fishing lures. I'm gonna soft plastic inject it and then whatever, it doesn't matter. Point being is I printed these molds, they have 6 walls and like 50% infill. Carbon fiber PETG. Not the cheapest filament, and I don't have all that much of it, but it would help these last a little bit longer, which is why I used it. However, it came with a couple of issues. I printed 2. This one here actually has like these little pins on it to help you line it up in the right place whenever you're about to inject it. The tolerances, not quite right. They don't work. It won't seal shut at all. That's it. It's never gonna click shut. I tried it. I can't even force it shut with pliers. This is wasted. This one is even worse because it has the pins, right? But the other side doesn't have any holes in it. Now, I probably should have noticed this in the slicer, but because I downloaded the file online and then clicked print, I thought, it worked for them, it'll work for me. So I've printed both of these in carbon fiber PETG. Maybe if you're printing stuff like this or something that you are planning on printing a lot of, testing the model that you plan on using first in like PLA might be a good idea because I would rather have wasted this much PLA, and you can still use PLA, it just won't last as long. So using this instead, it's kind of wasted, man. That feels. So remember, use PLA to prototype stuff, check that it works. If you're planning on printing loads of them, and especially if you're printing loads on like the first plate, like 6 or 7, print 1 in PLA first. Check that it works, then batch print a lot of them. I'm so glad I only did 2 and didn't like fill the bed with copies. At least there's that. Next up is something that 100% you should know about, and that's adaptive layer height. Now the reason this is useful is, for example, you can see here that I have like the top of a Pokeball model, right? What the model is itself isn't important, but the shape of the actual model is. If you slice this on 0.24 millimeters, what you're gonna end up with is the top of the curve looks a little bit rough. As you can see, the layer lines kind of start separating as it builds the top. One way that most people would fix this is probably by clicking the drop down and then clicking a lower layer line. So you could put 0.08 millimeters. Now, when you slice this again, you're gonna notice that you go from like 50-minute print time all the way to 1 hour 30, which isn't huge, but for one small part, it's kind of, it's relevant. It's a good amount, right? But the top layer lines are fixed. It looks a lot better. Like, look how much closer together this is. This is gonna come out looking way better. But what if there was a way to get the best of both worlds? Well, there is, and that's where adaptive layer lines kind of comes in. So if you put it back to your 0.24 millimeters and then click on adaptive layer height, you'll notice that it will change the color to like this so you can see the sort of mapping of it. And then you've got here adaptive and smooth. So you can click this and you can change the slider from quality to speed and whichever you want it to be. And then you can change the radius to the FX as well. You'll click adaptive and it'll show you where it's going to sort of make these changes. Then you can click smooth to sort of smoothen this out so that it doesn't look as obvious, and you'll notice a bit of a difference. We're now back to 52 minutes, but if we look at the top, it looks good, like as if we'd printed it on the 1.5 hour setting. But if you change this to layer height on the actual preview, you can see what it does, right? But for print quality and saving time, this is always something to keep in mind for shapes like this. It's something that is super useful, saves you time, makes the prints look better. I don't think you can really go wrong with that, right? Now, sometimes supports, even on a full PLA print, can be a bit of a nightmare to remove. This one here has some leftover bits that will come off, but it needs a bit of effort. This can be for many reasons. It can be that you've done what I've done and left it in the cupboard with the supports on for a long time, or it could be moisture in your filament, or many other things as well. If you didn't know, PETG and PLA don't bond very well, meaning you can use PETG as an interface layer for your supports, and then they'll remove off like super easy. Again, back to our Pokeball, you're gonna see on the underneath that it does need supports to actually print this. Come to the support section, scroll down, and see filament for supports. You can change the support interface to be PETG. If you load up some PETG into your machine, you can change this, and then it'll give you a prime tower. And then when you do press slice, what you're gonna see is where the supports actually meet the actual print itself, there's going to be a layer of the PETG. So you can see the PETG in white and then the actual PLA in red. And what this does is when you come to remove those supports, it's just gonna fly straight off. It's gonna be absolutely beautiful, and there's no better feeling than when your supports just, whew, they're gone, right? Absolutely. So because they don't bond very well, you can do this, it's easy peasy. With a tool changer, this is gonna add like nearly no time at all, and it's gonna cost you barely any filament because of the fact that you don't have any purge. With a color changer, you can still do this, but you just need to consider how many changes there's gonna be, how much purge is gonna be, and how much time it adds on. If it's like a flat thing, it's not gonna be much at all, but if it's like a curved one, like this Pokeball, where it's gonna need to do a layer, then color swap, then do a layer with 38 changes, it's gonna purge quite a bit. So do check that before you press print, but this is still worth knowing about. It is super useful. Now this one's 100% worth it, and I found it in a YouTube video, which is pretty crazy. This is BumpMesh. Now BumpMesh is a free open source website that runs all of your data locally, right? So nothing's actually uploaded anywhere. And it's a tool that lets you put textures onto models like super easy. And I've looked for something like this for a while because quite often I want to make something that has like a wood effect texture on it, and doing that in modeling is a bit of a nightmare. I don't even know. With this, all you need to do is load the model that you actually want to affect and then click on the texture. Right now you just get this basic cube here, and you can change all the textures, right? So if you want, you can click on wood, so you can have like a wood effect, which is exactly what I would want it to do. You can change like all the different settings, so the size, all that sort of stuff, so you can see exactly like how you want it to spread out around this. You can do texture smoothing to change all the textures and whatnot. You can do like waves and grid and all this, like make it look like tiles and all sorts of stuff. But let's say, for example, I've got this potion bowl and I want to add a texture to it to make it look like crystal, like a different type of material. I can come here, I can click the crystal, it applies it straight away, and then I can just change the settings to make it look exactly how I would want it to look. So like I can bring the size down so it looks like it's a little bit more like cracked or crystally, and I can then change the actual height of it, and you can just change it exactly like that. This is free, so you just scroll down, export it as an STL, and you can also change like the resolution and all of that sort of stuff. There's tons of things you can do with this, and the fact that it's open source and completely free is insane. Now this is made by CNC Kitchen. When I saw this video, I thought I'd include it in one of these videos because it's so useful. Like I will use this a lot. It is such a cool tool, and to make it free and open source, and it also doesn't collect any information, what more could you ask for? So thank you, CNC Kitchen. Now, another thing to keep in mind is whatever 3D printer you actually have, you can quite often 3D print a lot of upgrades for that printer. For example, we have the Snapmaker here, and I actually had a problem with this when I first got it, but I 3D printed the solution. This is a spool adapter holder that'll basically make it so that like the spools that don't have these small holes that fit perfectly on there can actually go on, because you'll place it over this. This will then hold it in place, and now I can use any filament roll on here at all. So if you have, I don't know, an Elegoo printer, something like this, and there's an issue that you're running into, maybe consider whether someone's already made the solution to it. Because with the Snapmaker, I thought there's no way that I'm the only person that's had this issue. I'm gonna see if someone's made a spool adapter, and they had. So I just searched it, downloaded it, printed it out, and problem solved. And even if you don't have any problems, search your printer up on like MakeWorld or wherever it's from, and I guarantee there'll be some upgrades on there that you actually want to print out anyway, because people have made them for a reason. Now, another thing to know about is nozzle sizes. Regardless of what printer you're using, you're gonna be able to change that nozzle from a 0.4, which is probably standard for your printer, to a 0.2 or a 0.6 or a 0.8. Now, the bigger you go in nozzle sizes, so for example, with the H2C here, you actually have a choice between 0.2, 0.4, and 0.6. Now on here, you can see I've been 3D printing a shelf. I have to do 2 sides of this. It's a long print, so I'm printing this in the 0.6 nozzle. It saves a little bit of time because the filament can be laid down quicker. But then again, if you wanted to print something tiny like this with some very fine detail on it, you may want to use a 0.2 nozzle to be able to put down way more fine details and have your layer lines and your details come out a lot cleaner. You can use this on any printer. You can just change the nozzle out for whatever it is that you need. Printers like the Core one, you literally just unscrew the nozzle, screw another one in, and it's done. If you're going to be doing a lot of big prints like the shelf, then consider getting a different size nozzle. And also, if you're doing fine details like this, a small nozzle is definitely useful. But that's all the tips and tricks for this one. If you liked it, try this video. You might like that too.